Welcome to my first podcast for this channel. If you've not already done so, please take a moment to hit that subscribe button and share this podcast. The SEMA Show is just around the corner. And for those of you that don't know, the SEMA Show, or Specialty Equipment Market Association, which is for the automobile aftermarket industry, is an annual trade show that takes place every year in Las Vegas, Nevada. This year will be my 17th year in attending, and in this podcast I wanted to share what it was like for me to attend this show for the very first time, along with a longtime friend and podcast guest, Jan. So have a listen and enjoy. Okay, first time experiences of attending SEMA. The year is basically, 2000, and it was time frame October 31st through November 3rd. Yeah. Which, funny is, it's been 17 years ago, which is happening the same dates again. Yeah. So it took 17 years. I remember you came along with me because it was my first year going, and I had started up a company and I was looking for new vendors to carry products from, and you had time off, so you were willing to come along, so we went out there. From the show, what were your first impressions?
It's too much show. We should have been there for several more days.
Right.
It's hard to see everything all at once.
True. I was thinking we were there for 2 days, I think, is all we could afford.
Yeah, I honestly think that we probably walked around a few miles inside the convention center there. So
true. And if you think about it, at that time, it was only 2 halls, I think. There was the main hall, and there was one other hall.
I think there was about 3 altogether.
And they were still expanding. They hadn't started expanding the following years because it grew more, the hall space.
Yeah, I remember a lot of things spewed out into the parking lot and in front of the place too.
Right. On that aspect. Besides the typical booth babes and everything else, were there any particular concept vehicles or anything that stood out to you that you remember?
One of the coolest things was meeting Steve Saline and seeing the Saline S7. That thing was awesome. I mean, it was well put together. And
it was at the Pirelli booth.
Yeah.
Because that was one of the few photos from my old hard drive system that I saved. And I found it last night, that photo.
Yeah.
And thank you for reminding me, because I'm going to print out a copy of that photo, frame it, and if I run into him, I'm going to hand a copy of it to him.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the fact that he was very humble and willing to spend just a minute of his time with us to take a picture.
Yeah, I know. I asked him, I think, Mr. Celine, would you mind if I take a picture of you next to your car? And he was totally cool. Yeah. And it was nobody else was around him. It was you would figure he'd be swamped. Yeah. But no, he was totally cool, stood there, and snapped off that shot in front of that silver, S7, which was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But for me, I think the car that stood out to me the most was the concept. It was over at the Chevrolet booth, or GM booth, which was their concept of the which would become the SSR, or Super Sport Rally, I think is what they called it, which was the retro pickup truck with a retractable top, which was the purple one, which I think stood out for me. What I remember from their show, even though Chrysler had supposedly a big hit with their PT Cruiser release, which for some reason I didn't really catch. But
yeah, for some reason there was a lot of Ford Sport Tracks out that year. Remember?
Yeah, that's true.
They customized a bunch of those, and then this was kind of like the beginnings of the big wheel craze.
Oh yeah,
people
the dubs.
putting dubs and stuff on their cars, which I think a lot of times nowadays people put wheels on their cars that are several inches too big.
Oh yeah, they were taking it. It's I think the biggest we saw back then, I think from that show was 24s.
Yeah.
And now you look at them, they're 30s.
Yeah.
Which I'm going, okay, whatever.
it actually ruins the performance of the cars and ride quality and whatnot. And, that's honestly why, like, I could have put like 19s or 20s on my current car, but I decided to go with 18s because it was like a balance of comfort and handling.
Well, that, and also if you think about it, in today's economy, the cost of 18s versus 19s or 20s. Have you seen the pricing of brand new rubber lately?
Yeah, I think it's what,
ridiculous.
Like a 30% increase just by 1 inch.
Yeah, it's just crazy. I'm trying to think. So outside of that, it was like, I'm trying to think if there was anything else. So basically, somebody who's never been to SEMA and they're debating whether or not to go to it. Obviously, by the time this gets released, we'll be a couple of weeks away from SEMA happening.
Right.
And if they wanted to attend next year, what advice would you think you would give a first-time goer to SEMA?
Take at least two days. Don't squish everything into one day, because it's overwhelming. Super overwhelming. And then have kind of a mental plan of like what you want to see, like if you're building up a car or whatnot, or have like, you know, a certain preference, certain genre of car. At least have that idea in your head so that you can come in and look at whatever show guide and locate where the vendors are, because there's way too many. There's like so many vendors. It's insane. It's great, but it's insane.
Oh, I know. They the SEMA publishes out a weekly, looks like a newspaper magazine, oversized version of the Star magazine that you find at the grocery store, but a larger format size of it daily during the whole week. So yeah, that's definitely a good point because you can go to the SEMA's website and see who the list of exhibitors are and try to make a list of who you want to see.
Yeah. But even if you're there just to see the spectacle of the show, at least 2 days. Third day to possibly recover, but at least 2 days.
Yeah, the other one I would say is wear comfortable shoes.
Yeah.
It's like, forget dress shoes, find yourself a pair of good walking sneakers, and the only other thing I can think of is maybe keep a bottle of Advil or Tylenol in your backpack or bag, because you're going to be hurting by the end of the day. It's like when we went, we stayed at the Mansion Suites over at Circus, which is almost like right next door to where their RV park is, and we were walking to the convention center. I remember walking back, I was beat tired just from that short couple of blocks. I was hurting.
Yeah, well, now I got Uber and Lyft to take care of that issue. But like the other thing I remember, some drunk guy had rented a Viper.
Oh God, I forgot
and ripped
about
around the corner and spun out and ended up knocking down a couple of fake palm trees and ended up landing the car on a stump.
No, it wasn't a stump. It was a concrete. It was one of those concrete bases that they put light posts on.
And I could still hear the crunching noise of the tow truck pulling it off, and the whole front end ripping off.
Yeah, which is sad that many years later, it's like how I wound up working on. It's like seeing how that car is and how the cars are built. I'm like going, okay, so radiator support needs to be replaced on that car. The hood was in decent shape. It didn't get affected because not many people realize when a Viper would get totaled out in the early days when those cars were new. 90% of them was because of the fact that if the hood got damaged, the car would be totaled out. Because the hood replacement for a hood back then was like $20,000.
Yeah. Not to mention the labor to take everything out and straighten out everything.
It's actually not that bad.
Really?
Because the way that Dodge built those, the frame-wise, it's like, well, let's just put it this way. We had when it came to wintertime, we were looking forward to wintertime because
once in a blue moon, you would have a customer who would take their Viper out in bad weather, and next thing you know, it's coming to our shop for repairs. And it's like, and sometimes on some of those jobs, that repair build job would get us through the winter during the slow months.
Yeah.
Which, thank you for bad weather. But then again, it goes like to say, it's like you have some of those car owners who says, I'll never drive my car in the rain, which in the past I never quite understood. I thought, it's just a car, but now after working at a shop, I'm not going, okay, I could see the reasoning behind not driving it in the rain. But then again, it's like, I remember one day commuting into work in pouring rain on the highway, and I had a guy in a bright yellow Viper doing plus maybe 90 plus blowing past me and pouring down rain. I'm like going, that's an accident waiting to happen. It's like, well, I'm waiting for his back end to slide out and whatever. But
yeah, that car in Vegas, I'm pretty sure it had other damage, like undercarriage damage, subframe damage, you name it.
Yeah, it's like, I wonder what the actual percentage of how many of those exotic rental cars that are for rent out in Vegas actually have clean titles. Yeah. I bet you most of them are probably all salvage titles.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Which I totally forgot about that one. Kind of wish I don't know if I still have photos of that one, because this is all before digital age, and I think I still had it all on film-wise when I took the pictures. I might have in one of my photo albums pictures of that one. If I could find it, I'll try to get some scanned pictures of what that car looked like, which would be kind of interesting to see.
Yeah, I just remember seeing, like, under the showroom lights of the convention center, the paint jobs were insane. I mean, this was before. Now, nowadays we have like a lot of the satin and flat wraps that people put on their cars. But this was back in the day where the show cars were all glossy, and it was amazing. Especially those lights made it look even more amazing. But I remember specifically that the paint jobs were just fantastic on most of the cars there.
Yeah, that's one of the things I'm hoping for when I go at the end of the month. Hopefully I have enough lenses and filters to capture the paint jobs. So we'll see how they turns out when we're there. Anything particular you think that you want to see from the show, since you're not going, that you're hoping to see?
Kind of see what the upcoming trends are. Just like, because in the near future I'd like to build up another car. I don't know what kind of car yet, but like see what the trends are. Like, I'm kind of hoping like the big wheel thing's going to die, but I don't see it dying anytime soon.
Considering how much money that industry is, yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. Yeah. Personally, what I'm starting to see a lot of are more and more body kit companies, part of these wide body kits.
Yeah.
I just recently saw, actually featured on the playlist that I have right now on the SEMA Battle of the Builders, one of the latest young gun builders, which is a competition that SEMA has for builders who are under 27 years of age. Mm-hmm. He's from California, and he's doing CAD CAM drawings of his body panels for these cars, and building the molds out of foam with CAD CAM, and then laying down fiberglass for them. So it's be interesting to see what the technology for wide body kits are going to be like.
And it's also going to be interesting as the advent of the electric car comes into play, like how the industry will change. I mean, now entire countries are talking about electrifying all their brand new cars.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I think one of the press releases I just posted, there's supposed to be an unveiling of a all-electric SUV. Yeah. So that should be interesting to check out to see how it's going to happen.
Yeah, there's a lot of debate going on of like how this affects like the local power grids of most any city or state. like basically like the supply of materials to create these batteries. I saw an article that somebody posted that was halfway full of crap, I'll be honest, because in the article it stated that an average battery pack per electric car contained 15 kilograms of lithium. But I read up on specifically like a Tesla Model S with a 70 kilowatt hour battery used 63 kilograms of lithium. So I'm guesstimating like Joe average car is probably in and around like 30 to 50 odd kilograms of lithium in the battery pack, not to mention the other substrates that are needed to make these battery packs. So the supply of lithium, and then on the other end of that is that how recyclable are these battery packs, for one? Two, if they become waste, what are we going to do with all this waste? Because just even in the United States alone, there's like over 250 million cars on the road, not in junkyards, but cars and trucks, like pickup trucks, light duty trucks, and normal cars and whatnot. And then world total, there's approximately 1 billion cars on the road around the world. So, how we're going to get these materials to build these battery packs and the potential toxic waste
outcome.
That's pretty worrisome. I think it's almost worse than the gas powered car, because depending on where you live, you got it, your Tesla or whatever, and you're not directly polluting the environment. But if your local power grid uses like coal, you're just as bad, if not worse, than a normal car.
Well, like one of the big things that I noticed also was, I think when Tesla was hyping it up, they were doing these power stations where somebody, for the long haul customer to drive, you could pull into a station where I think Tesla demonstrated where you pull into a station, it would raise up the car or whatever, and they would automatically change out or have the ability to change out the battery packs for you if you were in a rush or something.
Yeah, that idea fell through. I don't remember the specific reasons why, but that just didn't end up working.
Yeah, because the other thing I was looking at it is like there was another YouTube channel of a gentleman who I think his channel is called Car Guru, and he was documenting where he bought himself a salvaged Tesla that was a flood salvage, and he bought another one because of swapped over all of the electronics, everything. And I'm watching him, trying to winch up the battery pack by himself, and it's like, that thing is heavy. Yeah. And then watching him also just recently on one of his videos, he was going through the process through his state to get a registered, I guess, salvage inspection, I guess is what they call it. Yeah. And one of the comments he made was that the inspector was asking for a VIN on the battery pack. I'm like going, as far as I know, they don't put VINs on battery packs.
Yeah,
because that thing it's like a serviceable part.
That'd be like us writing down lot numbers and whatnot for the gasoline we put in our gas tanks. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens with how this affects like the aftermarket.
Well, that's the thing I'm noticing, at least with the Toyota Prius, is for the biggest time everyone says replacing all of these owners who bought them brand new. Yeah. They were getting rid of them because of the fact that they don't want to replace the battery packs because of the cost involved if you go to the dealership. And the last few years, what I saw was like Dorman was now offering replacement battery packs for them now, which is okay. So somebody who's smart enough to pick up a used Prius on the secondhand market that needs some work, that's an option for them too.
But the thing is that they're so relatively cheap that I'd rather just go get a new one.
I don't know, because the Dorman battery packs were like prices that I saw were like right anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 versus the dealership ones like $4,000 to $6,000. But things may have changed since then.
But the car itself, like in most cases, people are more willing to just get a new car and just dump it.
True, but if not everybody can afford a new car.
Yeah.
It's like,
But
everyone asks me, like some of my old customers ask me, it's like, if you had to get a car, what would you get? I goes, in all honesty, I would get a Prius because of the fact I'd get myself a 2014 or newer if I could get my hands on one. And I mean, maintenance-wise on those things, it's like every 5,000 miles, change the oil, change your air filter, cabin filter, and rotate the tires.
Well,
About the only expense you have is out of that whole deal is going to be you have to use synthetic motor oil.
yeah.
But outside of that, great car.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how all this affects the aftermarket. And that, you know, I'm also in the RC car hobby as well, and for high performance motors, they tend to draw a lot of current from the battery, and so it in some cases there's been you know, these battery packs catching on fire, or one of the things that you have to watch out for is
Samsung.
no. Well, the one thing you have to watch out for too is like how hot your battery pack's getting, and so if you soup up an electric car because of the current draw, the battery pack might get pretty hot, and you're going to start seeing, like, probably within the next 10 to 20 odd years, people tuning up their electric cars and their cars catching on fire because the battery pack got really hot.
But then again, you would think, at least with Tesla, they had these updates that already are souping up the cars already, right?
Yeah, so
you would think that hopefully their engineers have put in some of those safeguards.
not so long ago, one of my friends tried to buy a Tesla, and the sales guy actually offered him a discount on another battery pack. That's a little bit suspicious. I don't know. Maybe I heard wrong or whatever, but that's what I was told, is that the sales guy said, "Hey, for like 20% off, I'll offer up a backup battery pack." And I'm like, "Wow, that's pretty insane. Like, why are you talking about this? Is there something that Tesla doesn't want us to know?" Or
that's interesting.
But yeah, it's yeah, so maybe the aftermarket, if these EV cars become so good, maybe people won't concentrate as much on the electronic side of things to get more juice, so to speak, to make their cars faster. And so maybe the focus will be just on suspension and brakes and looks.
Well, that's one of the things I think is maybe 2 years ago at the last SEMA that I attended, and I think it was at the Giovanni wheel booth. They had a Tesla that had some aftermarket rims for it, which, okay, and it was inevitable that it was going to happen. But you brought up a good point, is like, Elon Musk, obviously he's cornering the market as far as luxury EUVs. But what's the outcome, or what does he have in place as far as recycling of some of those battery packs? Yeah, he's got his now gigabit factory out in Sparks, Nevada, which, interesting trivia, if you were to take that whole factory layout and stand it up, it would be taller than the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, which is mind-blowing.
But yeah, I think one of the Tesla's potential downfalls will be they overpromised. They're having difficulties putting out the Model 3 right now. They've only delivered about 2,200 units.
Well, that could also be manufacturing, because they're doing everything in-house.
It is part of manufacturing. I forget exactly what, but apparently there's like a handmade group of components that are pretty difficult to make, and they're not able to keep up with the production lines.
And that's your biggest thing on manufacturing, is keeping those part bins or the supply chain going, right? If you don't have it, you're going to slow down the factory. I think I remember, it's like I had a friend before, when they even started releasing the Model S's, they were building them. They were going through the line building it, but they had to literally stop production because they didn't have, like you said, a key part, and these cars were just building up in the out in their parking lot or their storage lots until they got those parts. But whatever. So that's it.
But yeah, like one of the things I wouldn't mind going to the show to see, or like I said, the trends of how things are changing. And what's cool about going to SEMA is that a lot of the customizations of the cars you end up seeing in production cars later on,
or the manufacturers pick up on the trends.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So yeah, that's definitely true. And sometimes even though when the manufacturer will have builders build them concept cars to get their take on it.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see what builders can do when they get their hands on these, as they call it in the industry, dollar cars, where the manufacturer will sell a builder a vehicle to build for the show for $1, and see what they come up with.
Yeah, and then eventually, like, I wonder how the autonomous cars will affect the aftermarket industry in the long run. I noticed that the younger generation, there's a lot of them that don't get their driver's licenses until they're like 20 or 18 or something like that. But back in the day, like the Generation X, like that we are, when you were even 14 or 15, what's the first thing you wanted to do? You want to get your driver's license. You want to drive and be free and independent. But with the advent of these autonomous cars, eventually there's going to be a whole generation or most of a generation that doesn't know how to drive.
I think that's happening now.
Yeah.
That's the way society is now. It's like they don't even offer driver's ed anymore. Remember that, people?
Yeah. Actually, what was it? Back in 1990 or 91, I was one of the last kids in California to get driver's training for free. After me,
I don't want to date myself, but yeah, I know I'm kind of like in the same boat. Circa 1985, I think.
No, they killed the program about 1990 or 90, in around there.
Yeah, because I think it became a liability or whatever.
No, it was cost cutting. That's what I heard.
Yeah, just goes to show you how screwed up the educational system. It's like a few years back, I had a car I wanted to donate to my school because up here, one of my old high schools, because I knew that at the time they had an auto shop program and they could get some benefit out of it. Called them up and they says, "Oh, we no longer have a auto shop program anymore." It's like, wait a minute, you don't offer your students any kind of basic automotive knowledge? And they go, "No, I'm not going," which is, in my personal opinion, asinine, because you're going to have all these kids driving. They should have at least the basic knowledge of what to look for underneath the hood, to troubleshoot in case they get left stranded on the road somewhere.
But it's going to be interesting to see, and probably within our lifetimes, is what if the autonomous car catches on. The majority of the people that are going to customize their cars are going to be the folks that are well off or rich that drive these cars on the weekends. That might be the truth. That might be the way that things end up going. It kind of goes backwards in that, like with any new technology, it's the rich that get it first.
Yeah. Now the question is, like you said, the autonomous vehicles. But the question is, are the manufacturers going to give the ability of the owners to be able to override those systems?
Yeah, but probably within 20 to 30 odd years, they'll be so good that people won't have to get licenses. They'll probably just need basic training to move their car to the side of the road or whatever.
True. But then we're already starting to see it now. It's like, I think, at least with the Fords, I think pretty much from the Mustang down to the Focus, they have electric power steering and whatnot. So, they're already going towards that direction, towards autonomous systems, like what was it, like the auto backup systems? I don't know which cars have it, on the Fords, or is it
a lot of the cars nowadays they have the self parallel parking feature. But like the electric steering, honestly, that goes years back. It's been on cars for like 20 plus years now. But yeah, like the way that all of this affects the industry, like I said, it might only be like the people that are somewhat well off and the rich that can't afford cars that they actually drive and enjoy. But I'm just hoping that it doesn't completely go that way. I'm hoping that like the average person can, at least has the interest to do this. It's an interest to actually drive their own car and customize it, or just enjoy cars in general, driving them. That's my kind of slight hatred for autonomous cars, is that it's another skill that people are going to lose, and then I hope it doesn't negatively affect the people that enjoy cars.
It's something to wait and see what happens. And part of, I think, the appeal is that, being like a member of a car club or something, to hopefully preserve those traditions, I suppose. Because you have, you do cruises, rallies, to enjoy those cars. So there's hopefully going to be a demand for it, they'll be able to utilize the cars. One of the things I kind of miss what we used to do, you and I used to do, was used to do these weekend backcountry cruises with our friends.
Yeah.
It's like, heading up, backcountry roads through, whatnot. But so, I guess that's it. I want to say thanks for taking the time on your Saturday morning to
no problem.
Come here for this, and hopefully this will be a good podcast, and hopefully I'll be able to edit it out, some of the background music from the Muzak system, and turn this into a good episode. So thanks for taking the time to do this, Jan.
No problem. Hope we can do this again.
Cool.
Hey, if you made it this far to the end of the podcast, thanks. Our next series of uploads to this channel will take place during the week of SEMA, which is October 31st through November 3rd. Comment below or reach out to us on our social media accounts to request what you want us to include during our coverage. Our links to our social media accounts will be found down below in our video description. And don't forget to share this podcast, hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell, and hit that like button. My goal for this channel is to reach 1,500 or more new subscribers before the end of SEMA. Can you help me do it? Please. Thanks for your support.